Welcome to From Betrayal to Breakthrough, and here's a mini dose of Dr. Debbie, where I'm sharing tips, suggestions, strategies, and sometimes just a little motivation to have you move past your betrayal once and for all. Hi there. So last week I talked about the 3 discoveries and why people get stuck and how painful betrayal is and why it's a different type of trauma and symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome. Today, I want to talk about the 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough. And I want to share with you why people get stuck in certain stages and really what it takes to move from one stage to the next. So if you've heard me talk about the stages before, this may be a bit of review for you. It's also going to be very confirming because you're going to realize, oh, that's why I've been stuck. And that's why I'm feeling the way I feel. And I'm not crazy. This is real. This stage is significant for these symptoms and for this reason. And as I move forward, these symptoms heal, blah, blah, blah. So we're going to go through that because I want you to know what the stages are so that you can know where you are, know what you need to do. And if you are a coach or practitioner or healer of some kind, you can see, is this something that I may want to pursue? Do I want to dive in deeper? Do I want to learn more about this so that I can help my clients, my patients more effectively, more thoroughly? So with that, let's talk about the 5 stages from betrayal to breakthrough. This is a very boiled down version. I write about them in my book, Trust Again. This is what I certify our coaches in. This is all we do within the PBT Institute, but I'm going to give you this boiled down versions just so you understand the stages. So stage 1, this is actually before it happens. And if you can imagine 4 legs of a table, the 4 legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What I saw with everybody, me too, was this heavy lean on the physical and mental, thinking and doing, right? We're so good at that. And kind of neglecting or ignoring the emotional and the spiritual, feeling and being. Well, if a table only has 2 legs, it's going to be easy for that table to topple over. That's us. Now, that is not to say that if you are neglecting or ignoring the emotional and the spiritual, you will be betrayed. It was just a typical profile that I saw. Okay, stage 2, shock, trauma, D-Day, discovery day. This is the scariest of all of the stages. And I remember a study participant saying, you know what it feels like? It feels like every negative emotion you can imagine, being punched in the gut and losing a child in a crowd all at the same time. But I mean, right? Everybody remembers their D-Day. Everybody remembers the bottoming out on them, and a new bottom hasn't been formed yet. So it's terrifying. This is when it's like the person that you trusted the most pulls a mask off and reveals who they've been. Every rule you've been following is no longer. You've ignited the stress response. You're now headed for every single stress-related symptom, illness, condition, disease. Your mind is absolutely blown. You just can't even make any kind of sense of this. It makes no sense. And your worldview, your mental model, has been shattered. That's what governs us and prevents chaos. These are the rules. This is how life works. Trust this person. Don't go there, right? And in this one earth-shattering moment or series of moments, every rule you've been holding on to and believing in and following and respecting is no longer going on. And so, as I said, the bottom bottoms out on you. A new bottom hasn't even been formed yet. This is terrifying, terrifying. And think about it, when you're in this place, you don't trust the person you trusted the most. You don't trust yourself. Your sense of safety and security is completely destroyed. Your nervous system is completely dysregulated. You can't sleep. You can't function. I mean, this is where, now imagine here you have to go to work, you have to raise your kids, you have to do whatever it is you're doing, and you are struggling. I mean, really, really struggling because these most basic tasks are all consuming because we don't have the energy reserves. We're really trying to figure out how to piece back together our lives enough so that we can catch our breath and breathe. Like it's horrible. I don't have to tell you, you've been through it. So now imagine if the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? Well, you'd grab hold of anything or anyone, right? In order to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage 3. Survival instincts emerge. This is the most practical stage, and it's the most common one where we get stuck. And here's why. Because being on stable ground feels so much better than the shock and trauma we just came from, we think it's good, right? It was certainly better than it was. And because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we kind of reason, well, I better find a way to make this work because this is as good as it's going to get. And 4 things start to happen. The first thing is all of those small self benefits, that secondary gain, things like we get to be right. We get someone to blame. We get a target for our anger. We get sympathy from everyone we tell our story to. We don't have to do the hard work of learning to trust again. Can I trust you? Should I trust you? You know what? Forget it. I'm not trusting anybody, right? Things like that. And because we're so upset and so sad and so hurt and so angry, we're just in this space of, we're feeling like the victim. We're so untrusting. We're so dysregulated, with our nervous system. Our emotions are all over the place, rightly so, right? And so we're planting even deeper roots. And now we start questioning ourselves. Things like, wait a second, was it me? Am I not enough? Am I not this enough, that enough, whatever? Is it true what they said or what they did? Is that a reflection on me? And now we start, as if it weren't bad enough, right? Now we're questioning ourselves, questioning who we were. Why weren't we enough in some way? And as I mentioned last time, this has nothing to do with us, but these are the things we go through anyway. And we start questioning. And now we're actually sinking in deeper, and we're planting some deeper roots right here. And because we're here longer than we should be, and these are the thoughts we're thinking, well, this is the energy we start putting out. Like energy attracts like energy. So now we start bringing in new people, new experiences, new relationships to confirm that this is where we belong. And your mind will prove you right. So now here you are thinking it must be me, maybe it's me. And we're struggling with just every aspect of identity that we never even had to struggle with and never had to consider. And it's so all consuming, and we're questioning ourselves. We're questioning the whole relationship, who we were in it, everything and everyone. And now let's say we have another experience with betrayal, or a repeat experience, or something that kind of confirms, wow, you know what? This is the best you can hope for. And because we're here, now we're medicating and suppressing the symptoms of post-betrayal syndrome. And it just feels awful. It feels terrible. We're surviving, but it's not much better than that. And now because we're like, okay, I have to get back to work, get to, raise my kids, do whatever it is I need to do. I need to get through my day. So right here, we start numbing, avoiding, distracting. So maybe you run to the doctor and your doctor puts you on a mood stabilizer or an anti-anxiety medication. Maybe you start taking something to help you sleep. Maybe you're drinking, emotionally eating. And, sure, it may be helping you get through the day, not without a price. You're not healing. So now you found your method of distraction. And what it's doing is it's actually preventing you from facing it, feeling it, healing it. So you do it for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I can literally see someone 30 years later and say, you know what, that emotional eating you're doing, or that drinking you're doing, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they'd look at me like I had 2 heads. They say, it happened 30 years ago. All they did was lock themselves in stage 3. I hope you see this because it happens all the time. Anyway, if you're willingness is a big word right here, grieve, mourn the loss, a bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4. Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge, I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. Right there in that decision, you're starting to turn down the stress response. Now, you're not healing just yet, but at least you stopped the massive damage that was going on in stages 2 and stage 3. I always use this example because it really reflects what stage 4 feels like. And it's almost like if you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, apartment, whatever it is, all your stuff's not there. It's not quite cozy yet, but it's this feeling of hopeful excitement. Like, we can do this. We got this. Okay. But think about it. If you were to move to any one of those places, you wouldn't take everything with you. You'd clear out all the old stuff, get rid of it. You don't need it anymore. It doesn't serve. And you would only bring with you what it is that represents that new version of you that you're now ready to become, right? Well, it's the same thing here. And what I found was there was this one spot as people move from stage 3 to stage 4. If your friends weren't there for you, you've just outgrown them. You're not bringing them with you. Usually what happens is in stage 3 also, that's where we'll join like some lame support group. And we will actually sabotage our healing because we're afraid to outgrow our people. That's also where we start therapy. And if that therapist, and there are amazing therapists out there, but if this therapist that you're seeing is not highly skilled in betrayal, you will feel heard, you will feel validated, you will feel understood, and you walk out of that session not an inch closer to stage 4. And in fact, the more you revisit the experience without moving through it, the more glued you are to stage 3, the less convinced you are you can ever leave stage 3. So be very careful there. It's quicksand. I see it all the time. Also, in stage 3 too, when if we are so committed to just getting back with our betrayer, let's say it's a partner, getting back with that partner, and they have no intention of changing, and betrayers absolutely can. We have our rebuild program. I see it every single day. If they have no intention of changing, but we're afraid to outgrow them, then we will sabotage our healing because we just want to be with that person. So you see all the reasons why we sabotage ourselves. It's so, so common. I'll never forget a woman came to me and she said, Dr. Debi, my husband has been having affairs the entire time we've been married. We've been married over 30 years. Can you please do something with my mind so that I'm okay with his behavior, like going forward? Not I want to start healing, not I want to get the strength so I can have boundaries and make some different decisions, but can I rewire her mind so that she's okay with his constant betrayals? Now, I told her, I am not your person. If that's what you're looking for, I don't subscribe to that. I don't agree with it. Where are you in all of this? Where is your health, your wellness, your confidence, your self-esteem, your any of it? That was the choice she wanted to make because of the lifestyle that she had, and she just wasn't willing to give that up. So it's definitely a choice, but not something I can help anybody with. It just, as I said, you've heard me say this before, integrity is my highest value. And that's not, to me, that's not in integrity for me to help someone maintain something like that. Now, what I always suggest is get yourself to stage 5. And then who knows, your partner can say, I better step up my game to meet the strength of this person. Or you can totally outgrow them, but this way it's at least coming from a place of strength and clarity versus scarcity and fear. I took a left turn there. Let me come on back. Anyway, so stage 4 can be not a lonely place, but a very personal place, because here it is in stage 4, you're redefining who you want to be. You're taking the parts you love. You're leaving behind everything that doesn't serve. You're like, what do I need now? What would serve me? It's not all the research in, how do you catch a cheater, or it's like learning all about narcissism, whatever it is. You're done with that. You're like, I have all the information I need. It's about me now. And you're harnessing all of that energy you have into researching the past, into creating your future. Very big difference right there. Anyway, when we've settled into this space, we've made it cozy, we've made it sort of mentally home, we move into the fifth most beautiful stage, and this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. So the body starts to heal, self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise, things like that. We did not have the bandwidth for that earlier. Now we do. We're making new rules, we're making new boundaries. We have a new mind that we're creating. We see things from so many different perspectives. We have such richness, such texture to us that we didn't have before. We're not hardened. We're healed. We love, but we also have boundaries. We see things for what they are, but we still bring our best selves to it. So there's such a depth and richness to us that we didn't have. And the four legs of that table, in the beginning, it was all about the physical and the mental. By this point, we're so solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. So those, in like this, few minute nutshell there, those are the 5 stages. So when it comes, though, to moving someone through these stages, you can see each stage has very specific things that they need. Like, for example, if you bring up the concept of forgiveness, which is hugely powerful, but I founded National Forgiveness Day, so of course I believe in forgiveness. But when you bring that up too early, it backfires every single time, because there's too much. We can't even see that yet. There's too much anger. There's too much frustration. There's too much that we need to navigate through and move through, that while it sounds like a great idea, it falls flat. It absolutely doesn't work. And then even when we bring the concept in, how do we bring it in a way that makes sense, right? Like, think about this. Doesn't it make sense to at least move towards acceptance before forgiveness, right? So all of this goes in a very strategic timeline, and you really can't bring something in too early, because the whole thing could be like, this is just too hard, just forget about it. So certain things need to happen at certain times. And I remember working with one member in our community, and so overly anxious, and of course just wanting to put this behind her and get this over with and move through this. And so what she did, it's like, have you ever read a book where you're not reading that book? You're just, moving through the pages. You're not reading it at all. And you can check off your list, like, yeah, I read it, but did you really do it? Did you really read it? And she kind of cruised through it. She's like, no, I'm at stage 5. And then, she was making references, and no, I'm good as long as I'm not triggered. That's not stage 5. It's, for example, triggers. If you are triggered in stage 2, it's completely debilitating, right? But by the time you're in stage 5, those triggers are almost like either you don't even notice them, or it's like, go me, look how I handled that. You see, it's because of how strong you are as you get to that point. And the way you look at, even like with ruminating over your experience, you need to do that early on, of course, because you're looking to make sense and make meaning out of your experience. So there's a place for it. But when you're doing that in stage 3, you could be doing that for years. I actually remember another one of our members, and he had been betrayed. This was years ago. I think it was something like 40 years ago. And just as an example, like, I wanted him to see the amount of time he was spending ruminating and marinating over this experience. So I said, and I may have mentioned this in another episode, and I said, okay, you have a calculator? And he did. I said, okay, let's do some numbers here. Logic really has no place in healing from betrayal, but here it does. So let's take out a calculator. Okay, he had one. So I said, how many times a day? I don't remember the numbers I said, but just go with me. So I said, how many times a day do you revisit your experience? And it happened 40 years ago. So he said, something like 40 years ago. And he said, I don't know, like, 10 to 20. Okay. For how long? Let's say 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. So how often do you do that every day? All right. So we did the math. Taking every single day, let's say 10 to 20 times, let's say even say 10 to 20 minutes. And over the course of 40 years. And I said to him, okay, in any one of those times that you went in and you revisited it, did you come out with anything that helped you? No. Anything that you could use to help you move forward? Nope. Anything that gave you a sense of, oh, okay, I understand? Nope. Okay. So essentially, you spent that time going over something, igniting the stress response, flooding yourself with hormones and chemicals that are making, that could only suppress your immune system and make you sick and keep you stuck in all of these things, keep you up at night, not able to sleep, not able to focus or function to the level of the extent that you want. All right. So when we added up the numbers, it came out to something like 5 years. 5 years. So something like 5 years, if you added all that time up, he had done nothing but think about his experience to the point where it was making him sick, keeping him stuck, coming out of it with not one iota of anything he can use. So imagine going off into a cave somewhere. 5 years later, the only thing you get out of it is pain, sickness, and continued stuckness. And 5 years of your life is now gone. And that's how it was being spent. And I purposely made a whole big thing out of it so that he could see it so clearly. This is what so many of us do. So maybe you're not spending 5 years, but maybe you're spending 4. If you added it all up, 3, 2, 1, whatever it is. And the idea is, once you learn that there is a proven, research-based, predictable way to move through all of it, now healing has become a choice. And people don't like when I say that, because now the responsibility is on you. And then they say, but you don't know, you don't get it. Oh, yes, I do. Remember, I've been through it. And remember, it was so painful for me that I had to study it at the PhD level. It was so painful for me that it wasn't even enough to rebuild my life and my family. I had to help at least 1 million people with this to make it make sense and make a meaning out of it. I had to create a national holiday to help make sense out of this. I just wrote my 8th book. The TEDx talks, the stuff, the podcast, everything, you see? So the idea is, I get how painful it is, but I also know how predictable the healing is. So if you've been through the worst of it already, don't you owe it to yourself to see what could be waiting for you on the other side? You may have heard me share this too, where I talk about these 2 friends. And these 2 friends, they're both, let's say, 30 pounds overweight. Now, they're 30 pounds overweight, so they still put themselves together. They still look good. They still do what they need to do. It's not affecting anything much. They're wearing what fits versus what they choose, but, they're getting through. It's fine, totally fine. And then one of them says, I'm so done. I'm just done with 30 pounds. And she starts eating well and exercising, and she feels great. She feels great. Now she's just dressing in a way that she wants versus what fits. She's got more energy. She's living the life, right? And she says to the other friend, come on, it's so good over here. And the other friend's like, no, I'm okay. I'm good, right? Now, the truth is, she is okay. She also has no idea what the other one is feeling. But the other one who lost the 30 pounds is saying, yeah, but she knows, she remembers what that felt like. And having that perspective, she's realizing, what in the world is my friend hanging out there for when this is waiting for her? Is it hard? Yeah. Does she have to make some changes? Yup. Does she have to say no to certain things? Yes. Right. Hard now. Right. Easy later. She is feeling great. It's the same thing. If people knew what stage 5 felt like, they would not waste any time in stage 3. The only reason why we get stuck in stage 3 is because we are clinging to what is familiar versus the unknown, right? Not that it's even scary necessarily. It's just unfamiliar, just like everything else you had ever taken on in your life. In the beginning, it was unfamiliar until it became familiar. We don't trust ourselves enough, rightly so, right? We don't trust ourselves because how did we not see? How did we not know? So how do I trust I can make these decisions? I'll stay with what I know versus what I don't know. Fear of so many different things, fear of, let's say, the financial loss, religious reasons, breaking up a family. And this is interesting too, because I remember one of the betrayers in our rebuild program said, I can't believe she's going to break up the family. And I was like, oh, hold it right there. If she's putting up some boundaries because of your actions, you were the one who made that decision. It is